Welcome to the final edition of the Friday Preview bonus edition for 2012, and what better way to spend it than with the president of the Vermont Football Club, John Selton. John, welcome.
Thanks very much, Dan.
John, it's been a very nervous week for all concerned at the club. Obviously, the club's playing in a grand final, very big week. What's been your role throughout 2012 as the club president?
Oh, look, I think just getting things a little bit back on track after what happened the last couple of years, hopefully, and to have two sides playing in a grand final this week is just an unbelievable achievement from the club overall, really.
What does your role as president take into account on grand final week? Obviously, it's a really busy week for all involved.
It's not too bad. I mean, I stay in the background a little bit, leave that to the coaches and players. I mean, it's up to them now, really. I mean, we just make sure off field we get everything right for tonight, obviously, and Saturday, Sunday, and leading into Mad Monday, I suppose, whichever way the result goes.
There's an attitude around the club after the last two seasons. The club haven't played in a grand final. Is there an attitude that the club's a bit starved of success of late?
I think 2 years out of finals was not something we're used to, I guess, after a long, successful period under David Banfield. And with Chris Barlow coming on board late last year, you could see over summer with the training that's been going on and leading into the season that the attitude of the players and the off-field personnel changed a considerable amount. He's been really an instrumental achiever, I suppose, whichever way you want to look at it, leading into this week's grand final.
Chris Barlow was a very good pickup, of course. He played AFL for Hawthorn. Were you involved in the selection of him as coach?
No, what we did once David Banfield told us about his not going on this next year or this year, we appointed a special committee for that, and then it got down to one or two people, and I got a little bit involved with that, but I left that to the football people more so than me.
On to the on-field matters now this weekend. Obviously, Balwyn are a very good side, a very deserving side, and their administration's just second to none, although your administration's second to none as well. How do you compare the two clubs in the way they're run?
It was a little bit difficult. I mean, we only played them once, I think, round two this year, and we played a lot different footy. I think they beat us by about 10 goals at the time, and since then we've changed our personnel on field as well as our game style. As far as off field, I think we're probably a little bit similar in some respects, although we probably focus a little bit more on the junior perspective coming through the club, and hopefully getting quite a few junior players coming on board. And I guess that's what's happened this year. We've had a few junior players come on board and they've been sensational.
Bright future for the Vermont Footy Club coming up, obviously, with the junior program. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how the juniors are going this season?
Yeah, look, the juniors this year, we have about 400 kids playing. We have four sides playing in grand finals, of which we won 3 flags. I think it was the 13s, 15s and 12s, I think, from memory. The 17s unfortunately missed out. But at the end of the day, to have 4 sides playing in grand finals out of 16 sides competing was a tremendous effort. And of course, with the seniors, we had 3 sides. Unfortunately, the Colts went out early. But to have 2 senior sides playing in a grand final this week, the reserves and seniors, is just an amazing achievement for everybody at the club.
Now, the trophy room's an iconic thing here at the Vermont Footy Club. Wall to wall, there's just silverware all over the shop there. Now, I don't think you can fit too many more trophies in those cabinets. As president of the footy club, you've obviously got to order a new cabinet for this week, should you win the game.
Well, there's another little spot there we can probably fit another cabinet in, but let's see what happens on Saturday afternoon about 5 o'clock.
John Selton, thank you very much for joining us on the final edition of the Friday Preview bonus edition. All the very best to your side this year and this weekend and beyond.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the Friday Preview bonus edition, and we're here at SEN Park with a very excited man ahead of their grand final this weekend, Director of Footy, Paul Johnson at the Tigers. Paul, welcome.
Yeah, no, it's very great to be here this time of year. You know, it's what we all aspire to do, and we all work hard, all the people around the club, and we're very excited to be in this week.
And speaking of hard work, you're involved in the football department side of things, on the selection committee, everything like that. How many hours week in, week out do the people actually put in? Because they're somewhat unsung heroes of a footy club, aren't they?
Yeah, there's many different sections of our football club. The football department, you know, being the coach and the players and the recruiting staff and the assistant coaches. You know, we'd probably put in 40 to 50 hours. We meet many times. Daniel and I, you know, have several coffees, and I think I'm drinking a hell of a lot more coffee since he came to this football club. And you know, we watch videos. We watched 2 videos in the last 24 hours. So it's you know, it's a lot of time and effort, but it's that high level of football that you have to do that. And then we have the great supporting staff of the the vice president, who Wayne Malone, who runs the social club, and then the president, who oversees everything and does the sponsorships and all the dealings with the councils, and then we have Joe Tregear, who looks after the admin side. So it takes a lot of people, and the guys that do the gates, and we all have our roles, and I'm sure in all the great clubs that these people are very, very much warranted.
In terms of recruiting, every club's got a recruiting policy. What's the recruiting policy at Balwyn?
Well, a couple of years ago, we were a very tall side. We had a lot of we had 8 players over 6'5", and we were getting run off our legs a lot. So we decided to try and increase our on-ballers. We also looked at youth. We had an ageing list, and a few of those guys retired after 2009, and so we looked at a policy of trying to recruit players under 23, and we also looked at players that were 18 years of age at clubs that were wanting to have a crack at First Division, and we saw we've got a couple of those, and young fella Jamie Godbleebson, who played for North Ringwood, and Matt Shepherd. They've come along from Third Division, and they've both played First Division senior footy this year, and Jamie probably will play in the team this week.
And that's obviously contributed to the success of Balwyn this year.
Oh, I think so. I think Daniel Donati's had a lot to do with it. He's come in and with the great backgrounding that he's got in football has made quite a difference, and the players have really taken to him, and that's not taking anything away from anything of the past, but sometimes a change is a positive step, and I think he's been an aspiration around the club, and we have picked up some good recruits, and Justin Cosgrove has joined our recruiting staff, and him and I have along with the coach, put many hours in, and it's already started for next year, as I no doubt a lot of the clubs have. So, it's a 12-month year gig. It never stops.
And particularly off the field's as important as on the field these days in terms of recruiting. What do you look for off the field in the players?
Oh, many things. They've got to fit your culture. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. They've got to want to come to your football club, to be part of the football club, not be the football club. And then, they want to have to be chasing that success. And that's one of the great things we had in 2008 with players like Joel Smith and Brad Smith, and several of the players and Alan Murray that came to the club were really chasing a premiership, and that really made them strive to do anything they could to get it.
You tell us about some of the recruits you brought to the club in the off-season that's contributed to success on the field this year.
Well, there's been several. Jeffrey Gobles at centre forward, I think, has been fantastic. We chased him and another guy over there, which we'll keep to ourselves because we'll probably chase him again. The coach and I jumped on a plane, which is something we probably had never done before, and went over. We rated him that highly. Ryan McMahon's been fantastic. A guy that coming out of a premiership at Port Melbourne. A lot of youth. There's 4 or 5 18-year-old guys that are there this week. So it's a good balance. Bit of old, bit of new. And what the other thing that's been is the guys that have been 23, 24 years old have really stepped up. Like Rennie Gilchrist is now captain at 23 years old, and his season's been fantastic. Charlie Hendry, 25. Players, yeah. They've who weren't the main people in past years who now are, and that's made a difference, I think. And
what's on the shopping list for next season? You mentioned obviously work started on next season proceedings already.
Well, I think there's no doubt that we've probably gone the full boat. We're maybe a little bit too small at the moment, and Nick Smith has had to take the burden of the ruck, and that probably doesn't suit him, as he'd like to be a bit more forward. So no doubt we will be chasing a ruckman, and we'll just have a look at the list in whole. And we've had one of the great things is that when things are going well, and we've got a great bunch of players, and players recruit players as well as we do, and we've got players starting to ring us at the moment, which is fantastic. So hopefully that we'll be able to retain most of the list, which we're pretty happy with, and we've got a lot of young kids we're still talking to, and trying to really boost that up. I know we haven't had the under-19 system there, and we get criticised for it, but if you would have looked at our reserve side, the Cubs, we called them this year, they were nearly the youngest side going around, and they were fantastic, and we're really excited about some of those blokes going forward.
Being on the selection committee, there's a lot of selection dilemmas going on grand final week particularly. Who's in the mix for selection this week?
Look, we're actually, it's unbelievable. 3 weeks in a row we've gone in with the same side, and unless there's an injury, I couldn't see any changes. So we're pretty happy with that. We've got blokes like Ben Wise and all that pushing for selection there, and Soldatus, Matt Shepherd, as I mentioned before. So it's a tough gig, but that's football, and it's hard, but. When the guys are doing the job, it's hard to make changes.
How do you address hard luck stories in grand final week? It's obviously one of the toughest gigs going around at a footy club, isn't it?
probably is. It's probably harder if you have to drop someone from a preliminary final, I would think, or from a semi-final. Daniel made those decisions and spoke to those players after round 18, and in 18 rounds they've all had their opportunities, and so the fact that he made those decisions and has been continually discussing and tackling that issue week in, week out, and brings it up every time we're about to go into a meeting now, and he again will address and how important those guys are around the club this week. So he's a very good people's person, and he handles those things very well.
In terms of the way other clubs are run, how does Balwyn compare to the rest of the league?
Oh, that's a good question. It's very hard to judge. Oh, look, there's many great clubs in this league. Noble Park, we've got a great respect for. We've been opponents for years. Vermont's very well run. I think we've all got our little different things. Obviously we're closer to the city. We don't have the big social club and everything, so we rely on different avenues and probably different avenues of recruiting. There's a lot of guys that live on the other side of town or Port Melbourne, that sort of way. We probably appeal to them a little bit more, whereas a Scoresby, probably would have a lot more homegrown people around that area, and same with Noble Park. We've got the sort of the south, and it's very hard to. I've spoke to guys over the years that might live in Keysborough or something else, and they've got to drive here or drive to Noble Park. So we're all different but similar. I mean, they're all great clubs. There's not many clubs that are running around that don't have their great success stories.
Well, Paul, I better let you get to that meeting ahead of a very big game this weekend. All the very best.
Thanks, guys.